In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Welcome back to Glimpses from the Seerah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Today, we shall dwell upon how public opposition over the message of Islam started to become more organized and the kind of plans that were being made to stop the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Let's begin with Darul Arqam, faith behind closed doors. As the number of believers slowly increased and reached to almost a dozen, a new need emerged. They needed a place where they could come together to learn and reflect. Salah had still not been made compulsory at this time, it was only voluntary. But the Muslims needed a place where they could learn the Quran and the teaching of Islam. Moreover, a lot of Muslims had kept their conversion a secret, and meeting at some public place would compromise their safety. So the Prophet ﷺ chose the house of Arqam radiallahu anhu, which later be called as Darul Arqam. Arqam radiallahu anhu was from the tribe of Banu Makhdoom, from where Abu Jahl came, and he had kept his conversion a secret. No one would suspect a Banu Makhdoom to give protection to a Banu Hashim in a politically charged climate. This helped to keep the activities at Darul Arqam a secret and did not raise any suspicion amongst the people of Mecca. Moreover, the house was situated in the center of Mecca. It was a busy area, and it helped such that when 20 to 30 people visited the house, it seemed quite normal, as against if the house were in the outskirts of Mecca, the traffic of those people going in and out of Mecca would have led to suspicion. Darul Arqam thus became the hub of the Muslims, a center for teaching, prayer, and strategy. Let's move towards how the Quraysh unite to pressure Abu Talib. The Quraysh were getting more and more disturbed by the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ. Since the Prophet was condemning idol worship, they took it as a personal insult and an insult on their forefathers, their culture, and their honor. All the chiefs of the Quraysh united together and came to Abu Talib, the chieftain of the Banu Hashim. They came with a proposal saying that they have chosen the most noble among young men from the people of Makkah, the son of Al-Walid ibn Mughira. They will hand over this young man to Abu Talib, and in return, Abu Talib will hand over Muhammad ﷺ to them, and they will do as they please. At this, Abu Talib became extremely angry and said, "What a foolish and evil bargain! You want me to take care of one of your sons, so I fatten him while you take my son and kill him." The eldest person amongst the Quraysh stood up and said, "I think our people have done as much as they humanly can. You must accept one of the offers now." This was basically the whole of Mecca against Abu Talib. But Allah gave strength and courage to Abu Talib, and he stood firm, saying, "This is a plot that you have hatched. Do as you please. I'm not going to budge from my position." Abu Talib then composed a series of poems chastising the Quraysh and accusing them of treachery. This caused the Quraysh to momentarily back down. The leaders of the Quraysh understood that putting pressure on Abu Talib was not going to work, and they needed to find other ways to stop Muhammad ﷺ and his preaching. Now we'll look at the banning of the recitation of the Quran. The Quraysh started using various tactics to stop the spread of Islam. Among the first was that the Quraysh tried to ban the recitation of Quran in public. Whenever the Prophet ﷺ would read the Quran out loud, they would start shouting and yelling and screaming and trying to stop the recitation. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu narrated that whenever the Prophet ﷺ would raise his voice to recite the Quran in front of the Kaaba, they would curse both Allah and His Messenger, as reported in Sahih al-Bukhari. No one apart from the Prophet ﷺ had recited the Quran in public so far. The Prophet ﷺ could do so unharmed because of his lineage, the protection that came by means of being from the clan of Banu Hashim and also being the nephew of Abu Talib. The Sahaba gathered at Darul Arqam and decided that one of them should recite the Quran in public other than the Prophet ﷺ and gauge the reaction of the people. For this, Abdullah ibn Masud radiallahu anhu volunteered. The Sahaba tried to stop him as he was not from the Quraysh, but Ibn Masud had made up his mind. So one day, Ibn Masud went to Kaaba near to Maqam Ibrahim and began reciting Surah Ar-Rahman in a loud and beautiful voice. The people began to gather around him, and many of them had not heard the Quran before. They were mesmerized by the beautiful recitation of Ibn Masud and stood there awestruck. But then one of the people in the gathering said, "This is the recitation that Muhammad has been talking about." At that very moment, people pounced upon Ibn Masud and started beating him until he could not recite any more. He came back to the Sahaba, bloodied and bruised all over. The Sahaba told him that this is what they feared. But Ibn Masud said, "By Allah, nothing changed today except that my contempt for the Quraysh has only increased, and I am willing to do the same tomorrow." While efforts to ban the recitation of Quran were being made, there were a group of people who'd mock the Quran during the day but could not resist listening to it by night. Now let's turn to the listeners in the dark. Three of the senior leaders of the Quraysh, Abu Jahl, Abu Sufyan, and Al-Aqnas, were mesmerized by the Quran recitation that they had heard. However, their reputation did not allow them to listen to it in public. So, they waited until the dead of the night. The Prophet ﷺ would pray tahajjud every night, which was the perfect opportunity to listen from outside his house. Each of the leaders would set out at night, not knowing that the other two did the same. They would listen during tahajjud, and then on the way back, they would bump into each other at Fajr time. They would feel embarrassed but would make some excuse and leave. This happened for 3 consecutive nights, and finally they admitted to what they were doing and made a pact not to come again, lest they would be exposed by someone else. Al-Aqnas then approached Abu Sufyan during the day and asked him what he thought of the Quran recitation. Abu Sufyan, not wanting to compromise his reputation, said that some parts were beyond his comprehension and some parts he understood. When Al-Aqnas approached Abu Jahl, he responded honestly and spelled out what was in his mind. "We, the Banu Makhtum and the Banu Hashim, have always been in competition. When they began giving food to the pilgrims, we did too. When they began giving out water, we did too. We are like 2 horses about to reach the finish line. And now they come and say that they have a prophet whom Allah inspires from the heaven. How can we compete with that? By Allah, for as long as I live, I'll never accept it." As reported in Ibn Hisham, Al-Sirah Al-Nabawiyah, it was pride and not ignorance that held Abu Jahl back and prevented him from recognizing the truth. We now turn to the tactics used by the people to ridicule the Prophet ﷺ. Many tactics were used to ridicule the Prophet ﷺ and his teachings. It would include spreading false rumors to insult and mock the Prophet ﷺ. For example, when a long period had passed and the Prophet did not receive any revelation, a Qurayshi woman mocked, "I see that your shaitan has abandoned you." This remark deeply hurt the Prophet ﷺ. Allah then revealed the famous verses of Surah Duha. "By the morning daylight and by the night when it grows dark and still, your Rabb has not abandoned you, nor has he become displeased with you." Surah Duha, ayah number 1 to 3. The Quraysh then stooped to an unprecedented level and began to slander and lie about the Prophet ﷺ and the believers. Some of these are captured in verses from the Holy Quran. The unbelievers say, "He, Muhammad ﷺ, is surely crazy." Surah Al-Qalam, ayah number 51. They further said, "This prophet is a sorcerer telling lies." Surah Shad, ayah number 4. The people started making up fictitious stories on the Quran, saying, "The Quran is but a forgery which he, Muhammad ﷺ, himself has devised, and some other people have helped him." Surah Al-Furqan, ayah number 4. As if this false propaganda was not enough, Abu Jahl and Abu Lahab would stand on the outskirts of Mecca and warn travelers that the Prophet ﷺ was a magician, and listening to him would turn you away from the gods of your forefathers. While some of these tactics worked to keep the people away from Islam, it ironically led to some people's conversion. We now come to an interesting incident of Dimad al-Azdi. Dimad al-Azdi was a leader of Yemeni tribe, and he was so influenced by the propaganda that he had literally put cotton in his ears so he would not be influenced by the Quranic recitation. But eventually, he questioned his actions and said to himself, I am a doctor, so I should try and cure him. He approached the Prophet ﷺ and said, I heard that you are a madman and I am here to cure you. The Prophet ﷺ replied, I am not a madman, but listen to my message. He then began reciting the Khutbah al-Hajjah, which gives an introduction to some of the undertakings of a Muslim. And before the Prophet ﷺ could even start reciting Quran, Dimad al-Azdi said, Stop, repeat what you just said. The Prophet repeated the Khutbah al-Hajjah, and the man said, By Allah, I have not heard anything more beautiful than this. What are you? The Prophet ﷺ declared himself as a prophet, and Dimad accepted Islam immediately. Now let's talk about the incident of Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira. The poets of Mecca were masters of the Arabic language, and their reputation preceded them. The most eloquent poets were the most influential and respected figures. The greatest poet of them all was Al-Walid ibn al-Mughira, the chieftain of the Banu Makhzum tribe and the father of Khalid ibn Walid radiyallahu anhu. On one occasion, the Prophet ﷺ was reciting the Quran in front of Kaaba, and Al-Walid had a chance to listen to the Quran properly. He was mesmerized and stopped in his tracks until the Prophet ﷺ finished. He then made a statement which spread like wildfire. This statement praised the Quran as a recitation which supersedes and nothing supersedes it, and that he had never heard something like it. Panic and confusion spread in Mecca, and people started to talk in every household. The greatest poet of Mecca has admitted defeat after hearing a single recitation of the Quran. When news reached Abu Jahl, he sought to immediately clarify with Al-Walid. Abu Jahl went to his home and said, Your people have heard that you have praised the Quran, and they will not be satisfied with you until you disassociate with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Al-Walid was a typical politician, submitting to external pressure, and he immediately surrendered and asked Abu Jahl as to what he wanted him to say. Other leaders of the Quraysh also joined the house of Al-Walid, and they began to discuss ways to ridicule the Prophet ﷺ. Some people wanted to call the Prophet ﷺ a soothsayer. Some wanted to call him a person possessed by jinn. Some wanted to call him a poet, while others wanted to accuse him of practicing witchcraft. Al-Walid insisted that they needed a single narrative, otherwise they would lose the trust amongst the people. He asked the people to leave him alone for some time to come up with a version that they all could follow. After pondering and thinking it over at length, Al-Walid came up with a version that he felt would be the closest to truth. This was that version. The Prophet ﷺ was a magician who has brought a message. With this message, he separates a man from his father, from his brother, from his wife and his children, and from his family. The people started to use this line of narrative, calling the Prophet ﷺ a magician and creating fear amongst the people that if they listen to him, their families will be divided. Allah severely condemned the actions of Al-Walid by some of the most powerful verses in the Quran captured in Surah Al-Mudassir, Surah number 74. Leave me and the one, Walid ibn Mughira, whom I created, alone. I gave him abundant wealth, many children to be by his side, and made his life smooth and comfortable. Yet he hopes that I give him more? By no means, because he has stubbornly denied our revelation. Soon I shall make him suffer mounting calamities. Surely He pondered and devised a plot. May he perish, how he plotted. Again, may he perish, how he plotted. He looked around, frowned, and scowled. Then he turned his back in scornful pride and said, "This is nothing but a magic from that of the old. This is nothing but the word of a human being. Soon I shall cast him in sucker." What will make you understand what sucker is? It is burning fire which leaves nothing and spares none. It shrivels human flesh. It's guarded by 19 guards. Surah Al-Mudassir, ayahs number 11 to 30.